All right, you guys. Hey, hey. What's up, you guys? It's Stephanie Lou, and welcome to another episode of Lights, Camera, Live. And today's going to be really amazing because I have my good friend Todd Bergin here, and we're going to be geeking out about building a Facebook Live or live streaming studio in general like a boss. So Todd, come on in. Let me go ahead and get you over here. Side by side, say hi!
Hey there, folks. How you doing? Hey, Stephanie. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Yeah. So if you guys are just tuning in, go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm here in sunny San Diego. Todd, you are in?
I am in Irvine, California, so I'm about an hour away from you.
That's awesome. You know, we're actually going to be passing Irvine to go to Disneyland this weekend.
People do that. A lot of my San Diego friends do that, and I never see them. They go straight to Disney, they do Disney, and then they go straight back home.
Aw, well, you know, I know for me, because I'm going to be having my toddler with me, it's probably just, they're pooped. They're just like, okay, I want to go home.
Absolutely.
I want to be in my bed. So shout out to Marie Tahan Daniels for joining us. Thank you so much, Marie, for hanging out. We've got Joanna tuning in from Kentucky. Hey. So that's awesome. So for those of you guys that are just tuning in, today we're going to be talking about how you could go ahead and build a live streaming studio like a boss. Now, what I absolutely love about Todd is that he has been live streaming since 2015.
Yep.
Stepped into the game, has never looked back. He's absolutely crushing it. He has courses out there that teaches you how to go ahead and Slam Dunk Studio, which I thought was a brilliant name. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm
sharing your, I apologize. I'm sharing your video while we're doing this. So.
That's cool. That's cool. And he is also the host of a really great podcast / live stream entrepreneur live video podcast. Am I right?
Entrepreneur Live Video. It's a daily, it's like 15 minutes a day, once a week. You get about 1 hour interview on Wednesdays. It's great. It's fun.
Very cool. All right, Todd. So let's talk about building your live streaming studio and what are the 3 essentials that you need in building out your live streaming studio?
Okay, first and foremost, I think that audio is 100% key. Now, various ways you can get a Rode mic and just, I mean, if you're, let's just say you're starting out with a phone, a Rode lavalier mic is a great thing to kind of up it just a little bit. Or if you're going to use like an iPad or your phone and you want to put it in a mini tripod or something, you might go so far as to get, I mean, Mackie makes a great $100 mixer and you can put a microphone like this, run it through the mixer and run it right into your phone. Yeah. And it's fabulous. And that's actually with a microphone, a mixer, and a few iPads. And it's lower budget, but I bought nice equipment that was the foundation for the bigger studio, but I didn't have to buy everything at once. And I was able to use an iPhone or an iPad, which I already owned.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like whenever you start live streaming, you use what you have first and then see if you could actually go ahead and stay committed to actually live streaming. Because some people, they'll go out there and they'll buy all the gear, even the green screens, and then realize, you know what? I really don't have the time to do this, and now they just have all this gear. So you're saying that your first setup was 2 iPads and a mixer and a mic?
Yeah, it was actually 3 iPads. You know what? When I got started, I wanted to go to Facebook, I wanted to go to Periscope, and I wanted to go to Meerkat. Meerkat was still kind of moving along when I got in. I think it was on its last breath, but Ty Lopez and Gary Vaynerchuk were still using it, and I thought, well, if they're using it, I'm going to just get started with it as well. So I wanted to try Cast, and I found a way to run my microphone through the mixer into 3 iPads. And I do have more equipment now that really brings on a richer sound. But for getting started out, that was awesome. And all of your audience, anybody getting started can, I mean, you know, it's like $700 between my microphone and my mixer. But I was rolling. I think I had a couple iRig 2s. Those might be $40-50 by the time I get 2 or 3 of them. But we're not talking about anything more than it's not even more than $1,000, and you've got very professional sound. But even if that's breaking the bank, a simple $60, $70 Rode lavalier mic is leaps and bounds over top of the inboard microphone.
Yes. Or
the headset with the microphone built in. Even though I think that's even better than just the onboard.
Very cool. Yeah. So Eddie has joined in and he said, start small and grow from there. I can honestly tell you when I first started live streaming, it was the built-in camera on my Mac, and it was an ATR 2100 mic. I didn't really have like a whole office set up. I pretty much had a green screen. That was kind of like my claim to fame. I used a green screen, and then I would go ahead and put things behind me, and that kind of just stood out. So that's really cool. So where can people find out, like, reviews of what type of equipment they should start off with first?
Well, I offer, I have one product, and I'm going to fill in some gaps too, because my product, Slam Dunk Studio, takes you to greatness from nothing. Like you know that you're dedicated to live streaming, and I also throw in podcasting in the Slam Dunk Studio because all the same stuff is used in my studio for podcasting as for live video, except there's one piece of equipment necessary for the podcasting that is not necessary for the live video. It's like $250. So I just go ahead and include that all. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start filling in the gaps. Like, what's the kind of equipment you need if you're starting out with a phone? And what's the kind of equipment you need if you want to use a couple iPads? If I was going to go mobile, my favorite device for going live on a mobile is an iPad. They have great cameras in them. The screen is great. You get it. I mean, they're just beautiful. And the other thing about an iPad is nobody's going to call you during your broadcast on an iPad. Going live on a cell phone is very problematic if you get phone calls.
Very true.
People are going to break in. I actually just recently switched, and I think Eddie was on my show the other day, and he's done the thing. I carry 2 iPhones now.
Oh my gosh!
I have an iPhone that I don't give the phone number to anybody, and it is strictly my iPhone X is strictly for content creation. My old 7S, which is only a year old, is my phone and text, and that has allowed me to. I mean, it's freed up my life in ways I've never dreamt. I love it.
So that's really funny because I've actually been considering getting a second camera phone for all of the stuff that I do, but I was actually thinking of getting a Google Pixel. Do you have any thoughts about that as using a Pixel for live streaming?
I don't even know what a Google Pixel is. Isn't that a phone?
It's their new phone. I think it's Pixel. I'm not quite sure. My husband got it, but he's basically like, look, babe, I could take photos and I don't have to worry about storage or memory and all of that stuff. So it's really interesting.
Well, I have a bit for me. I mean, look, for most people, it's not going to make sense to go and carry a second iPhone, particularly one that's $1,000. Okay. I have another business that pays my bill, that pays my Verizon bill, and I have me and my wife and my kids and all of our equipment on that. So it cost me an extra. I mean, I had to buy the phone. It did cost that. But it was a business expense, and then I pay $20 a month for the extra line, and it shares data with everything else. So it really wasn't. I did it mainly because my other phone started having problems, and Apple can't fix it, and it doesn't have problems when I use the phone. It's a brand new phone. In fact, they gave me a brand new 7S in December, and it still does. It still fuzzes out on me. I don't know. There's an app conflict. But I had to get something for content creation. I had to solve this problem because every time I'd start doing a video, the phone would zero out to the home screen or my phone would ring because I use it for my other business. So I wanted something that was just strictly for content creation and second phone. Now, I tried to use an iPad instead of an iPhone for my for my content creator, but I just don't want to carry an iPad everywhere I go.
That's very true. And it's funny because Melissa says, well, I usually just put my phone on airplane mode, which is really smart because, Melissa, there's this one time where I actually went live and I was screencasting my iPhone, and my family just decided to go ahead and start doing a family group text. And every time, Todd, I was trying to do like, oh, let me show you my favorite app. It's like, hey, who's picking up the kids today? I could pick up the kids. I was like, no.
Right. Well, the airplane mode is nice, but then what do you do if you're out somewhere and you need access to the cell tower in order to connect, and if you put it in airplane mode, I don't know. I think that works sometimes. I don't think it'll work all the time. I bit the bullet. I mean, I spent 6 months thinking about the second phone. I'm glad I'm not even looking back. I'm not even reconsidering the wisdom of this. It's so nice because I was actually watching Owen Video, the Business of Video on Wednesday. I was watching Owen and Nick, and they had a guest on, and I really wanted to watch it. And I was able to have that on my phone while it was in my pocket, and I was able to play with, and I was just listening, I wasn't watching, and I was able to play with my other phone. I'm selling a piece of property right now, so there's a lot of heavy texting going on between me and an agent. So I was able to actually do other things while I'm consuming live video content in real time. And that's been nice. I've only had 2 phones now for about a month, but it's changed my life. I love it.
Wow, that's cool. Hey, so if you guys are considering getting a second device, go ahead and raise your hand, leave a comment, and say yeah, I have a second device because I'm actually really thinking about that too. And so having said that, let's go ahead and cut real quick to Caroline. Caroline O'Neill is asking, hey, what program are we using to actually go live right now? It looks pretty crisp and clear. And so let's break this down. So we are broadcasting via Ecamm Live. I am using just a Logitech C920 camera, and I have lights on here. Todd, you have like a pretty badass setup. Can you walk her through like what exactly you're using?
I have a Canon. It's an older camcorder. I think it's called an HFG 30 or an HFG 40. I bought it probably 6 or 7 years ago, but it is high def. I don't know that it's 1080p or well, it is 1080p, not 4K. But I have that running through when you're using a camcorder or a DSLR camera or a point and shoot for that matter, and you're running it from a USB into your computer. You're going to have what's called a capture card in order to convert that signal and run it into your computer. You'd think you'd be able to run a camcorder straight into your computer with one cord. Not the case. It's more of a hassle than you think, but this capture card converts the signal. Now, I've used two in the past. I used one from Blackmagic called Ultra Studio Mini Recorder. Loved it, okay?
Yeah, shout out to Leslie Samuel for that, because I was asking him about that.
Yeah, it's a great one. However, it uses drivers, and it's not compatible with everything, and I found it's not compatible with one of Telestream's products. It's compatible with Wirecast, but it's not compatible with, is it ScreenFlow? I think it's called ScreenFlow.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to use ScreenFlow. It is not compatible with that. So I started looking for options because I really wanted to use ScreenFlow. So I've settled on a unit that's twice as expensive called Magewell. And
how do you spell that one?
Magewell, and it's plug and play. There's no drivers, and it's gorgeous. It's $300 though. Okay, the Blackmagic's like $130. This one's $300. There are knockoffs out there. Do not buy the knockoffs. Okay, I've been around I haven't done it myself, but I've talked to people and I've done the research. The knockoffs stink. They look identical. They're not identical. The Magewell is the real deal. And the picture quality between the Blackmagic and the Magewell is amazing. The Magewell is beautiful.
Really?
Yeah. And so then I have that just simply going into the USB in my laptop, and in Skype I choose the camera. And as far as audio, I've got my microphone going into a Mackie mixer. I'm a big fan of Mackie. I think for consumer level electronics and mixers, they are the best. It's a 1402 VLZ4, about $400, and I have that running. I actually have that running, but if you're just starting out, you can run that. You're going to have something that converts the analog into a digital signal so that you can have a USB, but you can plug that right into your laptop too and choose that within Skype. And now you're off and running with a DSLR point and shoot, whatever you already own, going through that Magewell, and you can have the sound, and you can have a laptop if you want, or a desktop, doesn't matter. Those are pretty basic setups. What I have is much more elaborate than that, but I think I would drown people out in facts.
So Caroline, you asked what our setup was, and you could kind of tell like the difference between the two. So when you're live streaming, of course, yes, you could still go ahead and use your iPhone, use your iPad, things of that sort. All that really matters is that you go ahead and you get started, right? Yeah. But let's also talk about what are some other things that you need to have in your live streaming studio. So for me, I would say, Todd, I have 3 lights running right now. And we talked about this. We're like, okay, let me know when you go live, because then I'll flip everything on. Like I have a light here, and right there.
Okay. Lighting was the last thing that I took on because, one, I didn't know how much space I'd have once I got finished. And I don't know that I'm truly finished, but lighting is expensive. I bought LED lights, and they're all like, I think they're like $300 a piece, and I have 5 of them. But they're crazy. I wanted LED panel lights, and I bought. I mean, shadows. Once you start chasing shadows down, you just never have enough lights. It's nonsensical. But you do need good lights. I have a Diva ring light in front of me. I don't remember the name.
Every time I hear Diva, Todd, I just gotta go. Diva.
Oh, okay. There you go. The Diva ring light, man. I put pictures of my studio on Instagram, and everyone loves the light. Okay. Mm-hmm. The Diva ring light, it's by a company called Supernova. They're not cheap. I mean, they're between $200 and $300. But what's nice about it is you can set. I have what's called a Cowboy Studio mini tripod. They're my favorite. They're like $20, and they're very, very well built. And I have like 20 of them around my studio. Some of them are extras, and I can't get enough of these. It's kind of like hair bands. You always have them everywhere you look. I don't wear them, but I know my wife does. So I have these tripods. And I can put the Diva light on the tripod top of the Diva light, so the camcorder is sticking out of the middle of the light.
Yeah.
And so it just sets up so beautifully. It's a well thought out product, and it's a little expensive. I mean, by the time you do the tripod and the light, you're in for at least $300, but you've got amazing light. And if I would have known how easy just the Diva light was, I wouldn't have waited until the end. I just was scared to take on the lights for whatever reason.
Oh my
I didn't know
goodness.
anything about lighting.
Okay, so coming from a female perspective, because the majority of the viewers are females, I would say that lighting was probably like the first thing on my list, ladies. And mostly because I was like, the more light I had, it's like blemishes be gone. And
Right.
so that was pretty legit. But when you're talking about shadows, I totally hear you. And again, coming from a live streamer from a female's perspective, my hair has, it creates shadows. And Marie is asking like what I'm using in terms of lights. I don't use soft boxes. I have one light here, and I think this is a newer one.
That's a Diva style
It's
light.
a Diva style light, and it's $80 if I recall correctly. And it has like this nice little dimmer thing on top of it. I have another light over here that's supposed to use an umbrella, but I was like, screw it, I don't want to deal with that. But I will also say, Marie, that I have 2 windows coming on my left side and then another window in front. So I have just natural lighting in my room, which pretty works out really well.
Sometimes you can get away with natural light. A lot of people try to kill off all natural light, and they zero out the room in darkness, and then they start from scratch with the lighting. And if you have good windows, and the way the sun hits your house or the building that you're in, you can actually get away with it, maybe. But you've got a nice setup. I actually have some windows in front of me that are I'm in a loft with vaulted ceilings, and I would have to get on super high ladders to deal with these, and I just don't. So I do have some natural light coming in that I can get away with, but a lot of the time you can't. It's very subjective. I do have a tip though, a pro tip.
Go for it.
For your audience. Okay, this is for my audio and this is for my lighting. Okay, all of my audio equipment that needs to be turned on when I want to go live or when I want to record a podcast or anything is plugged into one power strip. Okay. And it's on my desk right behind my computer that I can reach to it like that, and I can turn it on, and every audio equipment goes on at the same time. Right next to that is all of the lighting on one button, on one power strip. So you touch it, and in fact, I'll do it right now. I'm going to turn my lighting off. Watch this. I'm going to hit one button. Look at how everything just went off like that. I'm going to hit one button.
Oh my goodness, that's brilliant.
Diva, even the Diva, because originally the Diva wasn't plugged into the light strip or the power strip, and I would always forget to turn the Diva on.
Yeah.
And that power strip didn't have enough jacks to do the Diva too, so I went and found a bigger power strip that had more jacks. But every single light in this room, if I have to get little extension cords to get them to that one strip, and that strip's behind everything on my desk that I can reach to and touch it in one touch. All the audio's on one of them.
Yeah.
All the lighting's on the other one. You wouldn't believe how much trouble that saves you in the long run.
Stop, because you know what? Like, I'm about to just like walk out right now and tell my husband to go to Home Depot, because the ideas that you're giving me, like, I would probably want to walk into my studio and just be like, lights on.
Yeah. Well, like me, when you are live streaming and you're using Wirecast or OBS, and you've got Ecamm, you've got all these different things you're trying and using, any friction you can remove from the going live process, and you can do it, that you can rely and trust it, you're going to do it. And
yeah.
pieces of audio.
Yeah.
If I didn't have this
Oh my
done
goodness.
right.
Okay, so
So-
Todd, I actually have a really good question from you, and it's coming from Mary Fane Brandt. So
Okay.
when daylight savings time hit, she was like, "Oh crap!" Because she usually goes live around 7 o'clock, and what happens is that it's dark. So what would be the best lighting setup for that? Because she records at night, and she's having trouble just getting the perfect lighting.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky because you're going to be starting with no natural light. So if all you have is the Diva ring light in front of you, you might get away with that, but you might not. And it'll be very subjective to what's in your room, what's behind you, all that. It might be nice to have, like an LED panel somewhere beside you, pointing at the wall behind you to kind of light up the wall a little bit. Lighting, I mean, I don't even know if I'm happy with the way I have my lighting now, and I have a lot of money and time in it, but But it really boils down to trial and error, and start with the Diva light, or the kind of light that Stephanie had. That $80 is a little better than what I paid. I think I paid $200-300, but a Diva style light. The ring light's really nice. Put your camera on, put it on a mini tripod. Put your camera in the middle of that, so that you can have that squarely in front of you at a reasonable distance, and then start just looking at recordings, and that you're not putting public out there, and see what the lighting is. Even go so far as to put a lamp you already own behind you and see if that somehow helps. It could be off to the side, out of the frame.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of trial and error with light. It's very, very difficult to get happy with your light, I think.
That's very true. And I will even tell you guys, when I first started live streaming, I would have 3 of these just because I was testing it out. I would have 3 of these just on top of my monitor, and then just to see how it would work out. And it worked for the time being, but then as I started getting more serious about live streaming, that's when I went ahead and I got the Cowboy Bebop lighting kit. And then I realized, I was taking too much space in my office, and I ended up just getting, like you said, I got a desk lamp. I just swapped out the bulb to one that I really like, and I can move it. You can kind of see the difference there. And it makes it really easy. So thank you so much for answering Mary's question.
Yeah.
She's like freaking out. I think she's going to head on. She's going to go get her husband too.
Hey, you know what? You just have to try. The nice thing too is Amazon takes just about everything back, and something like a nice light is going to be returnable. So you could order it and you could give it a whirl, for a couple of days. And if it's not working to your liking, you can always send it back. I mean, a lot of my studio was, I did not have help building this. The only thing I had help with was the basics of audio that I learned in Cliff Ravenscraft's podcast A to Z course that I took. I felt like I needed something to get me started. I've taken my audio far beyond that course now, but I was able to do that, and I was able to do everything else I've done, and the knowledge and all that from his course, and it allows me to try things. And Amazon, when I want to try something, and also another great place you might not think about when it comes to audio is Guitar Center. Guitar Center has.
What?
Oh,
okay,
yes.
okay. So you guys, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about how you could go ahead and build a live streaming studio like a boss. Todd is completely geeking off right now, so I have to stop him, because I'm just you guys, if you're jumping in, we're about to get into tech deals and steals. And Mary, you didn't see it just yet, Todd, but she was like, okay, I'm already ordering. And so
Sweet. Now
you're saying there are a couple of other places that we should keep in mind, even outside of Amazon. So let's go ahead and jump into it.
Yeah, well, I when I was building my studio, I didn't always want to have to wait 3 or 4 days for Amazon. Sometimes the stuff would be a week, and it would be like a cord. I think I figured something out. I need a cord now. I need it in my hand now. I don't want to wait a week. I don't want to wait a day. I don't want to wait an hour. I want it now. I sound like the Veruca Salt, right? I want it now. And so I found that I had never, I don't even think I'd ever heard of Guitar Center. Okay, I'm not a musician. I've never played any instruments. And I did a search for some sort of piece of electronic equipment or a wire or something, and it said Guitar Center. So I ventured to a Guitar Center, and they have extremely liberal return policies. It's like dealing with Nordstrom, okay? Your receipt could be shredded, and they're going to give you credit or give you your money back or whatever. So I found that if I needed something in a short period of time, and it would, or not, but it was the same price as Amazon, I would just head over to a Guitar Center. Here in Southern California, they're on every corner, it seems like.
Oh, wait. Oh, my God. When you said Guitar Center, I was still thinking online. You're actually saying I could go to a physical place.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can go in and you can walk in and get your cord that day and run home and try it. I would try things with my system, and it was like, oh, wow, I thought this would work, but I'm short one cord. And then Amazon says, okay, you can have it by the 15th, and it's the 1st. Then I don't want to wait if I can go to Guitar Center. And Guitar Center, they have knowledgeable people. They have a very generous return policy. They pretty much take anything back. And so if you're doing trial and error, it's nice. And I would find that I would go to Guitar Center and I would buy more than I needed. If I suspected that it might be a different chord, then I would just buy all the chords that I suspected that it might be, so I could come home, try them all, find the one that works, and take the rest back. And they don't care. They just don't care.
It's
awesome. Fabulous.
So Angela, she's saying there's a Guitar Center in Grossmont. So for those of us in San Diego, you might actually just see the up and coming live streamers all at the Guitar Center. They're going to be wondering, what happened? Why are we all of a sudden getting these people vlogging in the store? That's hilarious.
They're not used to live streamers coming in. They're used to like musician geeks. But yeah, tech geeks doing live stream, that's new to them. So they don't always have the best advice, but it's a great place to start if you want to go in and talk to somebody and actually get to look at stuff hands-on, mixers, and they have all that stuff.
That is funny. Okay, cool. All right, so what are some other tech deals and steals? Oh, you know what? I was actually talking to Angela in our Facebook group because she was asking me how I was doing some of my lifestyle videos for my Instagram stories. And I was telling her that I've been using a gimbal, and I usually buy them secondhand. So I take advantage of Facebook friends. Hey, because when you have friends like Todd, that's like, hey, I have 5 LED lamps and I'm just going to go ahead and switch it up. I could totally tap you and be like, what do you not need anymore, and take it off your hands? What are some other places that people should go ahead and look to if they're looking for some steals?
Okay, the best, in my opinion, steal, like a deal package where like you get a lot of stuff for less money, is a company called BSW. And if you go into BSW and you type in Heil PR40, that's the microphone that I'm using here.
Yeah.
If you go to Amazon, this microphone's like $350, $360 by itself. But if you go to BSW, they have this microphone. They have the shock mount, which helps with the vibrations. They have the pop filter, this piece right here that helps with the P's and stuff.
Yeah. So nobody tell them.
Doing now, there is one little thing. All the equipment that they sell you in this package is black, except in the picture on the website they show the pop filter as gray. Okay. I didn't like that, so I called them on the phone and I said, I put this order in, I'd prefer black, and they made it happen so everything could match. But the BSW has, if you're going to buy the microphone, you're getting all this extra stuff for the price of the microphone on Amazon. It's a great deal.
Oh, okay. Cool. Wow. Man, sometimes when I'm doing the live show, you guys, I get to geek out and I'm in my head, I'm like, oh, I want to write it down, but I still got to look at my guest.
Yeah. It's I'll tell you, and the microphone too, if you want to know, I mean, I use it, so I recommend it, but guess who else uses it? Cliff Ravenscraft, Pat Flynn, John Lee Dumas. I mean, you can go down the list of these all-star guys and girls that have really knocked it out of the ballpark with podcasting and broadcasting in general, and almost all of them use the Heil PR40. It is kind of like the gold standard in the online space.
I've heard about that for sure. At one point in my life, I thought that I was going to be a podcaster, but I realized that I'm more of a visual person. I bounce around and I move my hands a lot, and that works. So Todd, here's a question for you that we have from Jen Baker, and her question is, let's talk about backgrounds. How do you create a live streaming studio setup, like outside of the tech? How do you create a background that fits in with your branding?
You know, that's tough, and that's very subjective, and you just have to kind of start somewhere. The background that I have right now, I used to live in this condo like 10 years ago, and when we moved out, we kept it and rented it out. And about 2 years ago, I outgrew my space at home. I had 2 businesses in one office, and I outgrew that space. And so I didn't renew the lease 1 year, took over this condo, and I put my studio in it, and that's all I have it for. And I pay a studio. Real estate values in Southern California have gone up so high that we're getting rid of the condo here soon. And I'm going to move my studio back home so I broadcast more. This background right here was all there for me, except for the belongings in the shelving. But I love shelving backgrounds. Owen Video's got, if you want to look at somebody who's working on a studio and some backgrounds right now, Owen's doing that pretty much daily right now, showing off a studio that he's building, I think in his garage.
Yes.
But, you know, it depends. I mean, you're going to have feminine studios, you're going to have masculine studios, maybe you're going to have, you know, kind of in between. And it's going to depend on your subject matter, what you want to put back there. Maybe you want something simple like some flowers and a lamp and maybe a good book. Maybe you want a book stack. Maybe you want cubicles full of stuff, kind of like I have built-in shelves full of stuff. You just have to really put thought into it. If you're starting out, I would just focus on making your background to where it's fairly attractive and it's not just like a taupe wall. You know, that's kind of I mean, boring and it's common. You want to do something a little more than that. So maybe a cool picture, or
Yeah.
maybe a little table with something on it. Maybe a screen. If it's just a taupe wall, hang. TVs are so cheap now. Hang a screen up and put your logo on it. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you could do that are simple and inexpensive that jazz it up really quick.
I love all of those tips, and I love you talking about the evolution of the other live streamers out there. I mean, I'll share my evolution was that, like I said, when I first started going live, I used a green screen, Jen. I used a green screen because I had this horrible looking bookshelf behind me and it was completely disorganized. And then I was like, okay, I'll take out the green screen and I will color coordinate the books on my bookshelf, which I didn't realize people caught on to that. So that was hilarious. But Jen, this is still the same office that I've always been live streaming in. Basically what I did is I pulled my desk away from the wall. I put it in the center of the room. Behind me is, what do you call it? It's removable wallpaper, and I got it from Target. I think Mary picked up on it too. I like this wallpaper because it has a little sheen to it, and so when the lights are on, it kind of pops off around it. Other things, Jen, I took an end table that was in the hallway, and I put it back here, and I put an IKEA shelf. So I think just get creative with it. Think of what works. We do have friends. Todd had mentioned Owen Video, who's transforming his garage, and he has like separate setups of different scenes. I have other friends like Molly Mahoney, who you guys probably know as well, and she's coloring each wall in her office different, which is pretty cool because like she'll show like she's in one area and let's say the background is white, and then her guest is in the other area and their background is blue. So it makes it kind of really cool. I will also say that sometimes with your background, just be mindful of if it's really busy, because Todd coming onto the show, his background is great because it's not too distracting from the bottom third graphic that I have. I did have a guest before who just had like crazy stuff going on. I was like, oh my goodness, that is way off brand.
You know, I'm going to be in your, whoever the viewer was that asked the question about the background, I'm going to be with you here in about a month because we're getting a lot of offers on this property. I'm not going to have the same background in my house where I moved my studio back to. I'm going to be back to a taupe wall in a dark room, and I can't even think. I mean, every day I think about what am I going to do in this room to make it look good behind me, and I have no idea what I'm going to do yet. So even though I've been doing this for 2 years, I'm starting with a blank canvas, and I have no idea what I have a piece of furniture I'm going to put there, I think, and I'm going to make it look nice, and I'm going to start there and just work my way up and play with it. But I really don't know what I'm going to lose this. I hate losing this. I love the background I have right now. It's a little cluttered, but I like to move things around and screw with people, and you know, like I'll change and see if anybody notices if I've made changes to my background. Occasionally people comment on that.
Oh, that's funny. I love the viewers that are just diehard and loyal and they keep track of like what's going on. I will say I have thought about this, Todd. I thought about kind of getting like a curtain roller and just having different screens that I could bring down. So if I wanted to do the green screen, I could just roll that down. If I wanted a black one, I could roll that one down too. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what your new setup is going to look like then.
Thanks. It's going to be fun. It'll probably include a TV on the wall or something. But the curtain rollers are great. They're a little pricey. I mean, I've looked at those before. I almost did one. I'm kind of glad I didn't yet, though, because you've mentioned green screen several times. I haven't commented on that, but I remember before I had a green screen, I had to have a green screen. It was like I kept thinking about it, and I need to get something with a green screen, and I need to try green screening out, and what can I do with a green screen? Well, that came with my lighting equipment, and I haven't used it one time. I mean, I've tried it, but I've never used it live.
Oh my goodness. It's fun. It's fun. Like I've had some ideas that I haven't been able to execute just yet. Like you could have a video background where you have like emojis floating behind you, and I thought that would be kind of cool. Like if I wanted to say breaking news, and then it's just like it's floating behind me. Yeah, I was completely geeking out. So that's a good one. One of the suggestions that we have is from Melissa Reyes, and she's saying that she wants to get a garment rack so she can roll her background away. That's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what, Melissa? I would actually just love to have a garment rack that would have different outfits that I could wear and I could just put on, or maybe just have like a green screen dress and like, oh, okay, cool. This is what I'm wearing today. Boop. So until like virtual reality catches up with us, We shall see. All right, you guys. So we've been having a great time with Todd today, just really geeking out about all of the audio, the tech, lighting, as well as background furniture. P.S. By the way, TJ Maxx is a really good place to get some furniture. If you have any questions that you want to go ahead and pick Todd's brain with, go ahead and drop them now. As you guys have noticed, I've been using Ecamm. I've been experimenting with it. I've been throwing up your comments on there. Some of you have actually asked, Stephanie, am I going to be using Ecamm over OBS more often? It's a mixture. It's really, I was even telling this to Todd as we were setting up for this. I was like, it depends on the run of the show. Like if a guest wants to go ahead and throw up a website, I'll have to think about whether or not what's going to work best, OBS or Ecamm. But Ecamm so far, it's been good. It's been good. But you use Wirecast, right?
I use Wirecast. I wanted the telephone support. That was a big sales point for me. Because you can call up, and even Stephen Haywood sometimes answers the phone. And he runs something called the Tech Buzz. He's been doing live streaming for like 15 years.
Wow.
And he's a great live streamer, and he works for Telestream. And occasionally you get him on the telephone as tech support on the premium line. So if you buy Wirecast, I think when I bought it, it was $500. I have Wirecast 7. I know there's Wirecast 8 now. I don't know what the price is for that. But
yeah.
For an extra $100, you get 1 year of telephone tech support. And when you call, you're dealing with somebody right there. And if they can't answer your question, they'll call you back when they get an answer. So it was really nice. OBS, I found it was very difficult to get started with because there was a lack of tech support. I think things have gotten better. There's been a lot of YouTube videos done since I got into it. And I didn't have as much 2.5 years ago, to get me going on OBS where I was totally happy. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to pay for Wirecast. Maybe I'll regret it, but I didn't. I love it. I absolutely love Wirecast.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. For me, like I said before, it was really just, am I going to be committed to live streaming? And I figured I might as well try OBS. I'm not afraid of like rolling up my sleeves and getting stuff done. And I figured out a system, and it worked. But for those of you that are just starting out, if you're on a Mac, Ecamm is pretty legit too. I've really been pushing it. I reached out to Glenn and Ken, which I think is really funny. I think they're brothers. Glenn and Ken, they have a Ecamm Live beta group, and you could ask questions in there, and they've been super helpful. So it's been good. It's been good. Melissa says, OBS is hard to start, but the price is great. Yeah, because it's free.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that OBS, and I started with OBS, like I said, and I did a couple broadcasts with OBS, but my audio was always off sync. There were just little details that, and I fell hard for a live video, and I knew early on, I got sick one day. I had just got started in live video and social media and trying to figure out, I had just discovered Pat Flynn maybe 6 months before, I don't know, and he's kind of where I started really looking into what I wanted to do online. And I got the flu, and I was laying in bed, and Gary Vaynerchuk was selling the Ask Gary V book, and he had a program he called the Super 8, and he went live on 8 platforms for 8 hours, getting people to buy, like he would have people committing to buying like 24 copies of his book. And if you did that and showed him the receipt, he would do something for you. And, he was basically trying to get his book on the New York Times bestseller list and on Amazon #1 and all that. And it was brilliant what he did. But I was laying in bed with the flu, and I watched all 8 hours of that. And I thought to myself, I want to stream multiple places, and I want my streams to kick butt. Yeah. And I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I'm going all in. I took all my chips and just shoved them into the pot. And I'm like, I'm buying whatever I need. I'm not even going to think about it. I'm just going to get all in and do the best I could. And I've maintained my interest, fortunately.
That's awesome. I totally missed the whole Gary Vaynerchuk 8 platform thing, but that even sounds amazing. Todd, we have a question from Jen Baker. And so she's asking, hey, I'm going to be live streaming for a client. There's going to be live winner drawings with sets all over the warehouse. What's the best way to go ahead and live stream that?
There's so many ways that you can do it. I to be quite honest with you, I do a lot less mobile live streaming, like at events, than I do in my studio. So I'm not sure that I'm the best person to ask that, but I know that the live view equipment is really, really good. If I were, I'm going to be at Social Media Marketing World at the end of this month. I'll be at Traffic and Conversion as well. And if I do any live, I'm going to have, I might have a tripod. I definitely will have a mini tripod. And I might just use my phone and a lavalier mic and just do one-on-one interviews with people. Hey, how you doing kind of stuff. And if I have the lavalier mic plugged in, I've seen a lot of people where they just hold it close to their mouth, they talk, and then they hand it to the other person. It's kind of amateurish, I know, but if you're just starting out, if you haven't fully researched the tech, it's a place to get started. It sounds to me like you're doing something a little nicer than what I'm talking about doing, like just running somebody down in the hallway and asking them to chat for a minute. Mm-hmm. So you might want to look at your options. I think Live View, kind of like Live University, but Live View. Yeah. I don't know if that's what that means, but I think Ross Brand used Live View, if I'm not mistaken, at Vid Summit, Daryl Eves' convention.
Okay.
And I think Nick Nimmons said he's using Live View at VidCon, which is coming up in Anaheim in June. I might be mistaken on what they were using, but I think it's Live View.
Okay. Well, because I was even thinking for Jen, because you and I were talking about Switcher Studio, is that if you have multiple iOS devices, let's say she's running down the hall and she has a winner, right? You could have your iPhone on here and you're interviewing the winner, and then you could switch the screen back to the stage or wherever you're doing an auction or whatever. Jen, so that would be kind of cool. You know what we haven't even talked about, Todd, was that you could even live stream in 360. So
I know. I haven't even done that myself, though. So I'm not sure I'm not sure I'd be a fountain of knowledge on that because I haven't done it. I'm a studio geek. I don't know. No, I need to get more into the live. I need to get more into the mobile is what I need to do. I apologize. I didn't mean to talk at the same time.
No, don't worry about that. This show is actually different because unlike the podcast where it's good to have the separate tracks, the video is just like we're geeking out. It's totally fine.
Okay, cool.
I will say that in this conversation, you guys, you're definitely going to realize that there's so many different levels when it comes to live streaming. You have some folks that are just straight gimbal and a camera phone. Ariel Vieira, friend of the show, he's now up for a Shorty Award, I think it is, for the best live streamer, and he's up against DJ Khaled, which I think that was amazing that live streaming now has its own little Shorty Award, so that's pretty cool. But you're a studio, I'm studio as well. But you're also using a Canon, aren't you?
A Canon, it's a camcorder. It's the Vixia HFG 30, I think. I bought two of these when they were like $2,500 a piece for a different business. I ended up not using them, but I had held them so long it was too late to return them, and I just always looked at them in the boxes. It was like, wow, what a waste of my money. That was a ton of money I spent on these. Now all of a sudden they're valuable to me, so I use them, and I love them, and they have great picture quality. There is better out now for a lot less money, but camcorders are nice. I'm highly against using the native camera in anything other than a phone or an iPad. I think you can get away with those. They have really good cameras in them, but I hate using cameras in computers. I mean, it's obvious when people are doing it, and I don't like it. I mean, at a minimum, the webcam you have is a phenomenal one. Everyone seems to have the
Logitech, yeah.
The Logitech, and the picture, Eddie Garrison has one, and I interviewed him the other day, and his picture was absolutely gorgeous. In fact, I think it might have been a better picture than my expensive camcorder, quite honestly. That webcam is outstanding, and I think they're like I think Eddie said they're like $70 on Amazon right now.
Oh, yeah, and I think during the holidays, my whole entire, our Facebook group for the Lights Camera Live crew, we were just like, it's Amazon Prime Day, or it's Black Fridays, and we were just throwing things up there. But I do want to go ahead and give a shout out to Eddie. Thank you, Gary, so much, Eddie, for hanging out with us, Eddie Garrison. He's saying that Switcher Go, Jen, pay attention. Switcher Go also allows you to brand your videos on mobile, and it's on a mobile app. So definitely go ahead and check that out. Sweet. Okay, so let's see here. Marie Tahan Daniels is now asking, I always use OBS, but I'm loving the eCam after watching you for a bit. I also love that they have the Skype interface. Yeah, Marie, eCam Live is pretty legit, but in Wirecast, you could also do the split screen interviews. You could also live stream to multiple platforms, right, Todd?
You can, but it's very tricky if you only have one computer. And I went through this. This was one of the most painful parts of growing my studio, was figuring out how to bring somebody in on Skype and send it out on Wirecast. When you are doing that all on one computer, it's really hard on your system. You have to have the most cutting edge computer to get away with it. And even then, your fan's going to run. You might have some signal loss. So what I've done is I have two computers. I will run Skype on this old laptop I have, and I run that computer into the desktop, the video into the desktop. and then the desktop is the power, it's the workhorse, and it sends the one signal out to, I send it actually to Switchboard Live, and Switchboard Live sends it to, when I go live, I go to Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube all at the same time, and that's how I do it. And so I create this half loop between the two computers so that the computer that's handling the Skype can handle the Skype and the Skype only. And the computer that's handling the Wirecast does that by itself. And it's a lot easier on the computers. The picture's better. The sound's better. There's no sync issues. Everything is just much better. When you try to do it all in one computer, you really tax the CPU. It really gets, it's not easy to do. And it's highly, and the people that in the live streaming community and at Telestream and Stephen Haywood, I mean, some of them will tell you that it's virtually impossible to do and do it right. So the second computer really helps.
Oh, wow. That's hardcore. Todd, at this point, I feel like you're building Skynet in your office right now.
Yeah. I'm working on world domination, folks.
World domination. Okay. One other question that we have is from Angela, and Angela is a PC user, and I know that she was trying to teach herself how to use OBS as well. And like she and I were chatting, and I was like, isn't vMix like another option for PC users? Do you have any thoughts on that?
You know what? I have never used vMix. I was talking to, and I have some follow-up with Jeff Adams that I need to do, but I had Jeff Adams on my show. If you don't know Jeff, look Jeff up. He is just phenomenal at his craft, and he's been doing live streaming and broadcasting for a long time in his studio. If you want to geek out on a studio, Jeff Adams has one that you will never get tired of looking at. It's insane what he's got going on in his den. He took over his den, and he turned a dining room into the den so he could use this big room for his studio. But he uses vMix a lot. I don't know. I honestly don't know much about vMix. I don't know if it's PC-based and not Mac.
I think it's PC-based. It was one of those things where there's so many different ways that you guys could go ahead and go live that I was just like, look, I'm sticking to these platforms because I could know them, versus trying to go down the rabbit hole of like, oh, you could use this and live view and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I just need to launch a freaking show. But it sounds like, Angela, as a PC user, you have much more flexibility in terms of connecting your audio and your video, finding the right switcher, basically, at this point. Does that sound right, Todd?
I have never looked back from Wirecast. Yes, it costs a little bit of money. It's so easy to use. And if you pony up the extra $100 for the tech support, I have no personal interest in sending you there other than that. For 2 years, I've been using it. I love it. And it's part of the reason probably why I haven't tried other things. I'd much rather, look, I'm a geek guy. Or tech guy. I like to geek out on this stuff, but I don't want to mess up what's working. If you know anything about live streaming, when you get to certain levels, you don't want to screw around with what is working and is what's working, because one little thing off could take you weeks to figure it back out. And so I am a little concerned about, trying all these different things just to know what they are, when I'm more worried about, the messages and other things. And I can teach people what I've built, because what I've built, it works. I can stand behind it. If I told you everything to buy, I could show up at your house and have you going within a half a day.
That's awesome.
And yeah, and it works. And I've been through the ringer trying to figure this thing out. And I don't know. At some point I probably will take on some new challenges, but right now I've been focusing on podcasting and getting back into live video on a more regular basis.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like there's those of us, you guys, when it comes to the live streaming world, like some of us know BeLive, the ins and outs. Like for sure, Owen. I would hit up Owen and Molly for BeLive. When it comes to OBS, I might even go ahead and tap Ian Anderson Gray on how to use OBS. And then for Ecamm, it would be Ken and Glenn in the Ecamm Live Beta. But for Wirecast, I'm definitely going to hit you up if I ever get to that stage. One of the questions that we have, Marie Tahan Daniels, it's an Ecamm question, is she saying, am I using loopback for Skype or Ecamm call recorder? If you're going to, Marie, if you're going to go with Ecamm, you'll need the Skype call recorder in order to bring in a guest like Todd. So it makes it pretty simple that way, and I hope that works out for you. All right, Todd, it's been about 50 minutes. I'm always amazed at like how fast these go, because it's just so much fun to geek out with someone, especially when we're talking about live video. You are definitely building Skynet, that's for damn sure.
You know what? It's a lot of fun. It's a passion. It's a sickness. It's expensive. But you know what? It's a lot of fun. You make people's day. I mean, I'll tell you what I've done. It happens more often than not is people don't have a mix minus going on in their audio, and they don't even know what a mix minus is. And people come to me and they're like, "How do I do this?" And within 15 minutes, and maybe with one chord, they are running a mix minus, and all of a sudden their life got so much better. Now, I might have just opened up a can of worms because
you did, because I have no idea what a mix minus is.
All right, well, briefly, okay? This is if you have a mixer. A mixer basically is a soundboard piece of equipment that collects all of your audio signals into one spot. It blends them all together in real time, which is the mix, and then in one chord or whatever sends it out to the world. So when you it's really for when you're doing interviews and interviews only. So, Stephanie, if I have you on my program, I'm going to have you on that one laptop that runs Skype, and I'm going to have a cord, and I'm going to have what's called an iMic, I-M-I-C. It's a little cord made by Griffin.
Okay.
And it's a USB cord, and it has two jacks on one side and a USB on the other. And that's what I create a mix minus with. So what I do is I plug that USB into my laptop or my desktop, and on the other side of the iMic is a cord. One's an in and one's an out. And so what it does is it sends your audio into the mixer so that when the mixer sends the signal out to the world, your audio is there. But I want you to hear everything that happens in the show, or sound effects or whatever. You play YouTube, whatever, you're going to be able to hear it because you're going to need to hear it in order to comment on it. So the mixer sends the signal back to the iMic, but the iMic eliminates your voice out of it. So you're not hearing yourself. So you're hearing the entire mix minus your own voice. So many people set up to do a podcast and stuff, and they don't know how to create this mix minus, and they're constantly having to hit mute buttons and volume buttons in order to try to solve this problem they're having. And when your guest can hear their own voice, it's confusing to them.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting.
It really screws things up. Now, I've never dealt with a system without a mix minus, so I can't say that I've lived with that problem and can speak firsthand to that problem. But there's been several prominent live streamers that we know that had mix minus, and podcasters that have had mix minus problems, and they've sent me a private message and said, "Hey, I'm having this problem. What's going on?" And it's like, "Dude, I bet it's a mix minus. Do you know what that is?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Okay, you got to buy this Griffin. It's like $30. When you get it, tell me, and we'll set it up." And they're like, it's like their life has changed in an instant. Boom. And I've had that happen a number of times. It's so gratifying to help people out with these little tiny problems that are nagging, and you've got a simple solution that like that, it's done.
That's awesome. All right, you guys. Marie's saying that a mixer is also necessary. And for those of you that are just tuning in, this is Todd Live, and here's his website. Go ahead and check him out. It's todd.live. He has amazing blog posts, podcasts, all of this stuff is on here. So go ahead and check him out because he knows stuff, obviously. And you're on YouTube, right?
I'm a big Instagrammer. I have 2 daily podcasts. One of them focuses on Instagram for businesses. And if you want to reach me, my favorite place to reach out to me is send me a private message on Instagram at todd.live.
Awesome. Well, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you guys have any other questions about mix minus, all that stuff, Wirecast, Todd is the person that you should go ahead and ask. If you have any questions about eCam, then just go ahead and hit me up because I can talk about that. But other than that, Todd, thank you so much for your time. This has been absolutely amazing. I feel like we try to wind down and then another great question comes in, so I'm going to try to ignore that one.
No, yeah. Well, Stephanie, listen, the pleasure's all mine. It's a great honor. A very great honor to be on your program. You were on my program recently. I loved having you on. It's great to have you as a friend, and I'll see you at Social Media Marketing World. That's just around the corner.
Yeah, that's going to be a great time. If you guys are going to be at Social Media Marketing World as well, go ahead and leave a comment. Social Media Marketing World. And hey, if you love this episode and you want to subscribe, just go ahead and leave the comment subscribe. And then Robo Steph, I feel like I'm giving all these 80s references. Robo Steph will go ahead and come out and make sure that you get notified the next time that we go live. So having said that, we're going to go ahead and sign off and say bye. So bye, you guys.
See you, folks. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks so much.